Hi there.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
Good, good, thank you. Enjoyed the sunshine yesterday.
Oh, good, good. We have sunshine up here today. We didn't have any yesterday, but we've got sun here today, so that's great.
Right, where's up here?
I live in Scotland. I live in the Highlands.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, so I work from home. That's why my office always looks different than Eve's office.
Oh, very nice. It's
Yeah.
not so clever here today.
Yeah, no, we had all the cloudy weather yesterday, but it's warm, for us here. It's 12 degrees. It's still February. What's going on?
Where do you go up to your car when you leave?
T-shirts yesterday.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, no, but up here we're still due our spring snow. So that'll still hit us somewhere in March or April. Okay. So I will start off. We have a big group today. Um, I'm just waiting for everyone to come in. There's still some people that it says joining. Um, so, a very interesting, or not interesting, but maybe a really useful thing for you that I want to chat to you about this week. By the way, you'll see I'm not Caroline. Caroline's in India chasing tigers. So, yeah. The thing I wanted to chat to you about this week was what to do when you're in a disciplinary process, well, in the investigation part of your disciplinary process. So if you are already in an investigation process and you then find further evidence towards the end of that investigation process. So something happened, there was an incident or a number of incidents, and you are now investigating for a disciplinary. We are drafting the disciplinary letter, we are ready to go. And towards the end of this, you find out something new. You find out a new piece of evidence or a new incident that you didn't know about. What do you do with that? How does that impact on the process? So it's a really important thing to discuss with us because there are a number of different options. So at some times, we will tell you that you need to stop or go back and do a further investigation with that person. So you might need to have a second investigation meeting with them, or in some cases a third one, depending on how many times there is new evidence that come up. So you would have another investigation meeting with them, and sometimes you'd need to go back to some of your witnesses as well and say, now we know that this happened. Can you tell us about this as well? So it might mean further investigation meetings need to happen. Other times it doesn't. So if the issue is related to what you already have going on, then I'm going to use an example. If you are already dealing with a head chef for food safety breaches in the kitchen, and you find more food safety issues, then you don't necessarily need to put that new lot of evidence to them, because it is still a food safety breach. It's still a health and safety breach. It falls under the same allegation, and you don't necessarily need to reinvestigate. But let's say, for example, you're investigating food safety issues and you're inviting the chef to a disciplinary for food safety issues, and now you have also found falsifying of his timesheets. That's different. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to tell you to go back and reinvestigate that because it's a different issue. And if you are already in that investigation process and just before you take disciplinary action, you really want to go back and investigate the second issue and then do a disciplinary with both allegations and all relevant evidence on. So that's an example of how it could go either way, and we really need to talk to you about it to understand which way it needs to go. The other thing that could happen here is that you may not have suspended someone first time round in the investigation. And then maybe you find something that's even more serious than the first allegation. And actually now you're like, now I need to suspend this person. You can suspend them based on the new evidence found. And that if you do that, again, sometimes we will advise you that you should investigate the new evidence and then suspend. Or sometimes we'll say you can simply say there is new evidence and we are now suspending. As long as the important thing, if you don't reinvestigate, the important thing is that the evidence is submitted and listed on with the disciplinary invite, and the allegation related to that evidence is really clear, so that someone has the option to view the evidence, view the allegation, and have time to prepare for that, to deal with it. So that's how your disciplinary process is impacted by this. What we can't do, and we see so much of this, is that the investigation with the person is pretty much done, and then the club just piles stuff on, or the client, not the club, it's not always club, just piles things on and says, oh, but we also have this, and oh, we also have this, and oh, he also does this, and oh, also he's off sick and he doesn't give us a sick note, and blah, 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 blah. And they just keep adding things on. And you're like, no, whoa, hold on. We can't just discipline someone, especially if it's a gross misconduct disciplinary. You're like, no, we need to be quite specific and focused about what the allegations are, what the evidence is, and we need to deal with that. And we're not throwing everything to see what sticks. That's a tactic that the tribunal judges absolutely hate. A tactic where it looks like you have just taken everything that you can find throughout their entire employment and you're now throwing it at the wall to see what sticks so you can get rid of them. That is a tactic that the tribunal absolutely hates. So it is really important that you stay quite focused on what the allegations are, what the issues are, what the evidence is, and we're dealing with it. So you might often be dealing with us and we'll go, yeah, okay, those are also problems, but you know what, they're not the big... We're dealing with these two big issues right now. We'll deal with these two big allegations. Those ones are just noise now, and you don't want to just make noise for the sake of it. So that's the other thing that is really important, that you don't just go, oh, and this, oh, and he does this, oh, and he does this. We need to stay focused in the process. That doesn't mean you can't tell us about that. Because sometimes we'll go, oh, okay, really? Hold on, that thing is relevant to this. So you can absolutely tell us about it, but just be prepared that we might say to you, okay, these are the two issues, that stuff's noise. So yeah, I hope that's helpful for you. I'm chatting to you about it because we have 3 cases right now where this has happened and there is new evidence and you need to decide how to proceed. So I thought it might be good to tell you guys how it impacts on your case. Do we have any questions about this or anything else? You might need to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question.
Yeah, hi Nadia.
Hi David, how are you?
I'm fine. Sorry about earlier.
Oh, it's okay, don't worry.
I seem to be uploaded twice. Anyway, I'm hoping that we can discuss some of the changes in employment law. Is that something that you will cover in this webinar or a future webinar?
So we won't be covering it specifically in this session. If you have a specific question, I can try and answer that for you. If you say to me, you know, what's happening with SSP, I can try and answer that for you. But we will actually be doing sort of more structured things to actually inform you of what those changes are. So it'll probably be in these Thursday sessions, these Thursday webinar sessions, but Carolyne and I will do them in quite a structured way, and we will let you know that these sessions we're going to be talking about this. So that, and it will, rather than me chatting for 15 minutes about another thing, we will use the session to brief you on the relevant changes that is coming up soon.
Right. Yes. And how we can mitigate against some of them,
Yes.
and what things we should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, and what you'll need in place in terms of anything that you need to change in your processes or your policies or all of that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine. So, I mean, we're not far away from the beginning of those changes. Certainly this year, 25, 26, 27. First changes are looming. Okay, we understand them, and we can take steps to make sure that everybody else understands them. And does history, let's say, in terms of, can I just ask this one question about, entitlement to day one rights to entitlement, whereby someone who's sick, we have a policy whereby the first 3 days are waiting days, so they lose the first 3 days of any sickness. And obviously company sick pay kicks in and SSP kicks in after that. But the first 3 days are very important to make sure that malingerers aren't given free rein. And of course, we're all in the same boat. We can see that people are going to take advantage. Some people are going to take advantage. But is the history that we have on an individual, let's say, relevant in terms of going forward? So if somebody starts to malinger, we don't know whether they are or whether they aren't. We have to accept that they're telling the truth. But if they've got a history of being absent from work, let's say over a 6-month period, 7 or 8 times, then they're clearly individual instances whereby somebody is taking advantage of the rules. So is that something we can use against an individual? Historically speaking, so that you've had absences in the past and now you've got another one, we'll pay you for it, but bear in mind that we want to make sure you understand our position in this going forward.
So it's a good question, because the changes that's coming in, which will make payment for SSP valid from day one. So it removes the waiting days. The waiting days will no longer be something you can legally do. So you will need to pay SSP from day one. That doesn't mean you have to pay club sick pay from day one. You can still start your club sick pay from day 3 if you want to. But you will have to pay SSP from day one. So how that would then work out would look a bit odd. But you would, let's say you have a week club sick pay and someone's off for 3 weeks, they'll get SSP for 3 days, then they'll get a week's worth of club sick pay, and then the rest of their time will SSP again. It'll look a bit odd, but it's doable. But SSP will be payable from day one. Now, that isn't just an impact on your club financially. What David has described here is the other potential impact, that people start to take advantage and go, it doesn't matter if I'm just off for 1 or 2 days, I get paid for it now. And suddenly a person who is off sick every now and again becomes off sick a lot. You will then you will need to start to manage their absence. I think you guys will find that you would need to kick in your absence management a lot quicker. You will need to have your conversations a lot quicker. Here are some really important things to have in place as those building blocks, those first steps to managing your sickness absence in your business. Return to work meetings for every employee, for every absence, immediately when they return to work. Not they return to work on Monday, but their manager was off for 3 days and now they're having the return to work on Thursday. That's useless. It's not useless, but it's silly. So, so return to work meetings for every absence, for every employee, every time. If the manager isn't there to do it, then the supervisor should do it. If it's the supervisor who is off sick and the manager isn't there, then the manager's manager can do it, but it needs to be done. In being strict about your absence reporting procedures. So if your absence reporting procedure in your handbook says that an employee must call their line manager or call in to their employer at least 1 hour before the start of their shift, and WhatsApp messages, text messages, emails are not acceptable, and enforce that rule.
Yeah.
Enforce that rule. Don't be like, oh yeah, but it's okay because this manager doesn't mind text messages. So actually those guys who work for that manager, they get to send text messages. That manager isn't so strict about the hour rule, as long as he knows beforehand. The chef in the kitchen was completely forgotten it, and he's had this guy no-show 3 times, and now he's moaning about it. Like, that weakens your position of managing that absence. So it's important that you know exactly what your absence management procedure is, and that you are strict about it, and that you address it immediately when someone doesn't follow it. Now, golf clubs. If your greens team if your course manager says, I do not want a phone call at 3:30 a.m., don't you dare. That is acceptable, because we have many greens that have this arrangement. So the greens team might have an amendment to that policy that says, if you are in the greens team, you can text in or you can send a WhatsApp to the group. But this must still be done at least 1 hour before the start of your shift, because when that course manager gets up, he wants to check his messages and go, oh, Bob's not coming in. I've still got an hour to work this out before we all go to work. So yeah, he doesn't want a phone call at 4 a.m, but he does want to know as soon as possible. So you would make an amendment for the Greens team only to say this policy has been amended, adjusted for you. So you can make adjustments like that, but not for every manager, because every manager likes it done differently. Just where it is really specific and there's a really relevant reason. The other thing that you need is self-certification forms or sick notes.
Yeah.
So if someone is off sick for 7 days or less, they can self-certify, and they need to fill in their self-certification form for any sickness absence. They need to preferably fill that form in. They need to bring that form in to you, or you need to make them fill that form in straight away as soon as they come in, and you take that form in the return to work and you discuss it so that they go together. It's good to have the one so you can do the other.
Does this period of absence of 7 days join together where you've got periods of absence of, let's say, so many months or less? Let's say they're absent for 3 days, and then a couple of weeks later they're absent for another 3 days. Does that become 6 days? As a separate period of absence?
There is a very niche space where it does, and it's got to do with when someone gets to the point where they've used up their SSP. So I don't want to talk to you about it in relation to what we're talking about now, because it will just confuse everyone. So if your question is in relation to normal SSP and someone is not coming to the end of their 28 weeks, then no. If they were absent 3 days this week and then with a cold, and then 3 weeks later they have a migraine and they're absent for another 2 days, then no, those are not linked together. They are 2 separate incidents and 2 separate SSP situations. So you're not like, oh, now you're 8 days absent, so now you need a GP note, because no GP is going to give you a note for 3 days back then and 4 days now. So it is 7 or more. It's more than 7 consecutive days absent. What is included in this is days off. So if someone doesn't work on a Saturday and Sunday, and they are off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then they come back to work on Wednesday, they need a GP note. It's not, oh no, that's just 6 working days. No. It's, you look at the entire absence. Okay? So if someone is off 7 days or more, they then need to submit a GP note. And that is also one of those things that is really important to enforce that rule. Most clubs do, but we do still have clients that go, oh, yeah, he was off for 10 days. He's self-certified, and then he was off for a few more days. And he didn't give us a sick note, but he's better now and he's back. And I'm like, yeah, but next time you're going to ask Susie at 7 days that if you're still going to be off tomorrow, you need a GP note, and then it's not fair. So make sure you enforce this. Make sure that you've either got a self-certification or a GP note, depending on the length of the absence. So your return to works, your self-certifications, following your absence reporting procedure, and ensuring that you have your self-certifications or your GP note. This makes it uncomfortable for people to pull a sickie, to put it that way, because now you got to call your manager and got to tell them you're ill. Then you got to fill in a form about it. Then you come back and you have an interview about it. Is it worth staying in bed for a hangover for 1 day, or should I just go to work? That it just gets rid of maybe someone who really is just pulling that 1 day sickie just because they had a few drinks too many. They don't fancy coming to work in the morning because they're going to have to explain themselves. So hopefully you're then just dealing with people who are actually ill and who are willing to make that phone call, make it in time, fill in the form, have the conversation about their absence.
So you're relying on the awkwardness on the employee, not to do that as often as they might choose to do. But could you put a marker down on their file, not necessarily a warning or disciplinary, because it's going to be difficult to do that if they're self-certificating. Then it's very difficult. And the odd day here or there, it's very difficult to pin it down on something other than genuine sickness. But can you, over a period of time where there's a pattern of absence, register a note on the employee's file?
Absolutely. So rather than so we're just making it hard for someone. I suppose relying on it be an uncomfortable thing to do. But yeah, we're putting processes in place to make sure that it isn't easy to just stay off home. But absolutely, when you then have repeated short-term absences, you then, if you have several of those and that this person's absence is reaching a point where it is higher than the other people in that department. So let's say on average, the guys in your greens team are maybe off 2 or 3 days a year, and you have this guy who's off 2 or 3 days a month. He's quickly going to stand out, isn't he? And you would then speak to him. So you should keep a log of all the absences. You should have a log. Most of you use online systems now where you report things like this. You should be able to pull a log there to see exactly when they were absent and what the reason was for their absence, and if they called in and followed the correct absence reporting procedure. And the first thing I would ask you when you come to me and say, I've got this guy who's off sick a lot and we need to deal with it, I'm going to say to you, can I see his contract? How long has he been there? Does he have any protected characteristics? Please send me the log of his absence. And then we can help you to start to manage that. And that starts to be managed in the return to work conversations, where the conversation is a little bit like, okay, so Bob, you have been off 6 times in the last 8 weeks, always for a day or two. Here it says a cold, there it says your tummy, there it says your back. Is there an underlying issue here? The other thing you're looking out for is patterns. Is he always off on a Monday morning? So if he is always off on a Monday, you'll say, Bob, it seems that you're always off on your working weekend, Sunday, and then a Monday. What's going on here? So you start to have that conversation. Is there an underlying issue here? We see a repeated pattern. What's going on? And then following that, you then start to say, you have higher levels of absence than other people. What is the issue here? Why is your absence level so high? And those conversations evolve until you get to a point where you actually go, okay, now we're doing an investigation into your high levels of absence. that then could lead to a disciplinary, which can lead to a warning. Okay. So absolutely, you should be managing this, and you will need to manage this more often once that 3-day waiting period is removed.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, your question.
That answers substantially everything I'd had on that particular subject. But obviously, we'll pick up on that and other things under the new legislations that are coming in over the next few weeks and so on. So I realise I've taken up a lot of time, and some of the other attendees would like to ask questions, but that's fine. Thank you for that.
All right, thanks, David, for the question. Anyone else with a question? Linda, and then Lorraine.
Hi there. Sorry, just a very quick question, and it's to do with someone's contract. We've recently changed a condition whereby someone gets paid overtime for doing something rather than not. And so it's changed, I think, the wording of the contract. Should I just do that as part of the review of the annual contracts, or is that something that's got to come through HR?
What do you mean the review of the annual contracts? Our review of your contracts, or your review of your contracts?
No,
our review of your documents.
It's coming up to the annual review of everything.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So if you let us know what you've changed and whether it is an overall change, maybe it's a change for certain departments, maybe it's a change for one department only, or maybe it's a change just for one individual, in which case we will probably help you with the contract wording to make sure it's correct for that individual, but we won't change your template. But if you say to me, this is for everyone in bar and catering team, then we will update the template for the bar and catering team with that new information. And if you say to me, look, it's for everyone, then we'll update all of your templates with that.
Okay, so if I just drop you an email for the annual, for you to consider.
Yeah, just let me know what is changing and who it's changing for.
Okay, then. Perfect. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
No problem. Lorraine.
Hi, Nadia. I will email you because this is probably a bit more complicated, but I was just wondering about special adjustments we put in place. It's someone with mental health issues and anxiety. He's a greenkeeper. We put in place for him. He requested to start at an earlier time, which he's been doing for a while, but he's the only one starting an hour before. We've got a welfare meeting with him tomorrow, so I'm just wondering how long that special adjustment needs to go on, because he's obviously coming in an hour before everyone else, working on his own, and no one's kind of monitoring what he's doing. I didn't know if you had any kind of view on that.
Honestly, with adjustments, especially if it does relate to a long-term condition, that could potentially be viewed as a protected characteristic, so a disability in this case, then really the adjustment should be in place as long as it's needed.
Okay.
And therefore, as long as it works. So
right.
What you should be reviewing within here is not whether you can still do this or not, if I could put it that way, but rather whether this is actually a beneficial adjustment for him. Is he actually getting a benefit out of this? For example, if you found before that this person was always late for work every morning and you had a real lateness timekeeping problem with this person, and you had a conversation with him and actually he said, you know what, if I can start at 7 o'clock in the mornings, that would be much better for me, because then I don't know, can do something in the afternoons and I can sleep or whatever. And you see that his timekeeping has really improved. And then the proof is in the pudding, right? If you then have to accept that if you then say, I can't do this for you anymore and we're stopping doing this, first of all, you need to really be able to show that doing it isn't working. But secondly, if he then starts to be late again,
Okay.
You're going to struggle to deal with it. Because
there was no problems with his timekeeping. It was just, I think due to his anxiety and things, he was just having trouble sleeping, and he was awake earlier, so it kind of suited him more. But
so it's about whether it's working for him. You know, like I say, that what I've described there is a really obvious result, but he might say to you, yes, actually, it's really working. It's really making a difference for me, because now I am up. You know, I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and now I can be here at 7, which means I can leave an hour earlier and I can go to the gym or whatever. And it's really good for me, and it's really working.
Okay.
What you can do, though, is you can look at what you can put in place for the business for that hour to make sure that hour is useful to the business still. So maybe very specific tasks are allocated to him in that hour. Maybe like I start half an hour earlier than everyone else in my team. But I have very specific jobs that I do in that first half an hour. That means that those bits are cleared off by the time the rest of the team comes in.
Yeah.
So using me as an example, that might be really good to say, in the first half an hour, or the first hour that this person is here, they need to do X, Y, and Z every day, so that those jobs are already done when the others come in. And therefore, we know that this time is actually being used effectively.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else with a question? Chris, do you have a question?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah.
I was at a meeting yesterday with just some of the managers that we get together now and again, and the conversation kind of went and led into 0 hours and holiday, and how to either calculate it. I said, well, for those, I think apart from one person who's on the 0 hours, and I haven't changed it this year or last year, and I don't know why, but I'm sure it came out that, did it change last April, where we can, within the contracts, we can pay holiday pay at the time of payment at 12.07% of their hours?
Yeah.
And I said that to them yesterday, and they all looked at me confused, and I went, no, this came in last year.
No, so this is really interesting. This is a type of conversation that will, if you are 5 people will have 5 different ideas without beers even being involved.
Yes.
It is confusing.
Yes.
And that is because it's changed so many bloody times over the last 10 years, right? So you used to be able to pay a rolled up pay, which meant that you rolled up the pay to cover holiday.
Yeah.
Then it changed that you couldn't do a rolled up pay, but you could do this 12.07 calculation and you could pay that. Then the government decided, no, you can't do that anymore. And 0 hour people are entitled to 28 days of holiday, no matter how many hours they work a year, which was a horrible idea. And everyone made really big changes to their business for the 2 years that was in place. And then the government saw the light and went, no, we'll go back to the 12.07% thing. Yeah. And everyone went, wait, we've just changed everything. So I'm not surprised people are confused, but you are right. Yes. If you have employees on a 0 hour contract, the correct way to deal with their holiday is, or the best and the correct current way to deal with it is to say, you look at their hours worked for every month when you calculate their wages, and you then use the 12.07% add that holiday pay, that 12.07% holiday pay on. It is good on the pay slip. If you have wages, holiday, that's really good.
That's what we do.
And then you know they're paid.
Yeah.
Then when 0 hour people want to take holiday, all they do is let you know they're going on holiday.
Yeah.
They have the right to do that. They don't have to request holiday. 0 hour people have the right to just tell you they're not working. And they can take as much as they like. They can take 6 months holiday if they want. There is no limit to the amount they can take because they've already been paid their holiday. So they're just not working and not getting paid when they're not there. Simple as that.
Okay. Thank you. And
All right.
I guess just leading on from that, then when does it come a point when someone doesn't become a 0 hours person? When does it become regular hours?
Oh, I love that question.
Sorry.
I always get it the other way around. I get people going, surely they're not. They must still be 0 hours. I'm like, yeah, sure. They're working 40 hours a week for the last 3 years. You can't call them 0 hours anymore. So when someone works regular work consistently over a 52-week period.
Okay.
So that's what we're sort of looking at the moment. But if you come to me and we have a case and you say to me, this person has worked Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings for the last 6 months, then I'm going to say to you that really isn't 0 hour anymore. So the point of a 0 hour contract is if you look back, if you even look back 12 weeks, you need to not be able to see a consistent pattern in their work.
Okay.
That's the whole point. So they need to work 10 hours this week and 20 hours this week and 0 hours this week and 5 hours that week and 40 hours that week. It needs to be like this. That is when it's a true 0 hour person.
So if just on the side of that, then if it was someone, say, who worked, let's say 18 hours a week, 3 days of 6 hours, and 1 week it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the next week it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, even though it's 18 hours each week, is that still a consistent pattern? No.
Yeah, that is a consistent pattern.
Yeah, okay.
And that person should have a minimum guarantee.
18 hours a week is a minimum. Okay, that's cool.
And they would be able to argue that in court if they needed.
Yeah, I mean, I've got one person who I need to look at. She has been here almost a year, and yes, we do have she can refuse the shifts clearly, but there has been some regular hours going on, so it's almost that we need to look at it and go, we need to give you the contract this year.
What you can't do is force her onto that contract.
No, I know.
We have one club where it's really, really strange. They have people who've been there on 0 hour contracts. Some people have been there like 15 years on these type of contracts. They work regular hours, and honestly, this club is really old school. They literally work like Susie works Wednesday mornings and Thursday mornings and Friday afternoons. Like those are Susie shifts kind of thing. And these employees refuse to go off their 0 hour shift contracts because
it suits them.
They want to be able to take these long breaks away from work.
Yeah.
They want to be able to say, oh, I'm going to visit my grandchildren in Australia for 6 weeks. See ya.
Yeah.
And not have to request that holiday and risk that holiday being declined. And for that reason, they cannot move this entire group of F&B people off their 0 hours because they have worked out, the staff, this sounds awful to put it this way, but the staff have worked out that it benefits them to be on these contracts. Yeah. Because the club still needs them to work specific shifts, but they get to say no when they don't want to. But, you know, in most cases, because I think you moved your contracts over a few years ago, if I remember correctly, from 0 hours to these, in most cases, you know that someone will go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I'll move to that contract.
Cool. Thank you. Great.
I'll give one more question at a time if someone has one. No? Going, gone. Okay. Have a lovely week, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want a free peace of mind call with us to discuss your policies, handbook, and any burning staff issues in your business, click the link in the description below.